Welcome to the parameter section. In this section, we will cover what are parameters, the data type of parameters, how to create a parameter, as well as how to find the top X using a parameter, how to dynamically change measures using a parameter, as well as how to use parameters in reference lines. In this lecture, we'll be covering what are parameters. So parameters are dynamic values that can replace constant values in calculations, filters, and reference lines in Tableau. So this is a use case scenario. Let's say you have a filter to show the top 10 products by profit. You can replace the fixed value 10 in the filter by a dynamic parameter. So you can quickly look at top 5, 15, 20, and 30 products. You can also use parameters to call on measures and dimensions on your dashboard. In this lecture, we will be covering the data types of parameters. There are 6 different data types that can be selected when creating a parameter. You have the option of float, integer, string, boolean, date and time. So a float is selected when you have a decimal point in your parameter. Integer is a positive or negative whole numbers with no decimal point. So float is selected when you have a decimal point, and integers are selected when you have whole numbers. A string, so if you have a parameter that contains text, then the string parameter is selected. If you have a parameter that has a true or false statement, you can select the boolean option when you create a parameter. When you're working with date or date and time, you would select the date data type or the date and time data type. In this lecture, we'll be covering creating of parameters. So how do you use a parameter in a dashboard? First, you would create the parameter. Second, you would use the parameter in a calculation. Third, you would show the parameter control for the user. And 4, use the calculated field in your visualization. In this lecture, we will be covering parameters. So in order to create a parameter, first we need to have a view. So let's create a basic view that shows sales by state. So let's drag in state to the column shelf, and let's drag in sales. So now we're able to see sales by state. Let's sort this descending. Let's flip the bar graph, and let's enable the marks. So in this view, we're able to see the sales by various states. So with the parameter, our goal is to see or let the consumer of the dashboard dynamically change the amount of states that show up. So if they want to see the top 10 states that have the highest sales, they're able to modify using the parameter. So as we were talking about in the filters lecture, you're able to filter the state to show the top 10 sales. So if you were to click on apply, we can see the top 10 sales. But if we were to put this on the dashboard and put it on the server, the user of the dashboard would not be able to modify the number of states that show up. So they will always see the top 10 sales by state. But if you want the user to have the ability to dynamically change the amount of sales that show up, so if they want to see the top 15 sales by state, top 15 states that have the highest sales, they're able to change it. What we would need to do is first we would need to create a parameter, and we're going to assign a parameter to the filter. So we can either go here, we can go to edit filter, go to top 10 sales by state, and we're going to click on this drop down and click on create new parameter. So we're going to change the name to top sales and change it to all, and we're going to change the default value to be 10. And once we click on OK and apply, we're gonna see that now the top 10 sales are visible. Now once we publish this onto the server, the user would be able to change this into top 15 sales. So they're able to assign it a number now. So they can go 50, top 50 sales by state, top 35 sales, top 5 sales, and so on. You can also edit the parameter and add comments. You can edit the title. You can format the way the parameter is being shown. So as you can see, the border changed around it. If this had been a string parameter, we would be able to see the font that is inside the parameter change as well. So this is how you use parameters in filters. In this lecture, I will show you how to create a parameter that lets you dynamically change the measures. So instead of seeing sales by state, we're able to dynamically change the sales into the various measures that we have visible over here. So change it from sales to profit to discount to quantity. So instead of creating different sheets to show these various measures, we can create one sheet and let the user decide which view they would like to see at any point in time. So in order to create this kind of parameter, what we would need to do is we would need to go to the drop down and click on create parameter. Let's give it a name, and let's give it a name of measures parameter, and let's go to the float type. Since we're working with a string, let's change this into a string, and let's go on, click on list, and over here let's assign various values. So let's assign the value of discount, profit, quantity, and sales. So one thing to keep in mind, the values that we have put over here, make sure the same exact values go inside the calculation. So in our previous lecture, we said that in order to assign a parameter to a worksheet, you need to create a calculation. Right, so in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and click on OK here, go to the drop down and go ahead and click on create calculated field. So as you can see, the parameter that we have created is now being shown in the parameter side. So we can go ahead and right click on it and click on show parameter control, and we're able to see the various values inside the parameter. Let's go ahead and change this into a single value list so we can able to see the various fields that we have while creating the calculation. So the way the calculation goes is we're going to type in case, and then we're going to type in the name of the parameter. Either you can type in the name, or you can always drag and drop the name right here. So we're going to say case and then the parameter, and we're going to go to the next line and we're going to say when, and we're going to put in quotations, when discount, then give us discount, when profit, then profit, when sales, then sales, and when quantity, then quantity. So one thing to keep in mind, make sure the exact same spelling that you have put in the parameter is the spelling that you are using to call out the parameter. So we're gonna say case, the name of the parameter, when discount, then discount, when profit, profit, when quantity, quantity. One thing to keep in mind, the parameters end with the end statement right here. So as you can see over here, in order to use the case, we have to follow this syntax right here, so which is what we used right here. Let's go ahead and click on OK, and the name of the calculation is calculation 1. So the calculation has now been created. So now when we change to different parameters, right now the changes are not going to be reflected since the calculation that we have created is not in the view. So in order to bring this calculation in, we're going to go ahead and drag and drop right on top of the existing calculations that we have in place. So as you can see, the calculation 1 is being shown right now, and since we have the sales selected, right now it's showing the sum of sales. So now the user can change to quantity, profit, and discount. They can change the parameter to different measures that we have. So instead of creating 4 different charts, we can just create one and let the user decide. And still the previous parameter that we had created in our previous lecture is also visible. So the user can say, I want to see the top 10 sales by state, and they can sort this and they can see the top 10 sales. If they would like to see the quantity of top 10 states, they're able to see the quantity. So this is how you create parameters to dynamically change the to various measures. You can apply the same calculation or same method on dimensions. So you can dynamically change to different dimensions. So if you don't want to see the sales by state, you can change the state into various dimensions that we have, so the user can dynamically select the different fields that we have, so they can see sales or discount or profit by country, state, city, postal code, customer ID, customer name, and so on. In this lecture, I will be showing you how to add a parameter to a reference line. Currently, we don't have a reference line in this chart that we created in our previous lecture. So in order to add a reference line, what we would need to do is you would need to right click on the axis, go to add reference line, and from here we would like to assign the reference line to a dynamic amount that the user creates. So let's say we want the user to say that he wants to highlight all the values that are more than or that are less than 50,000, right? So what he would need to do is they would need to go to the calculation that we had created and click create new parameter, and let's keep this as it is. Let's add the parameter to the view by clicking on OK and show parameter control. So if a user types in 50,000, the line is going to get shown over here. But if we would like to highlight all the values before this value, we would need to edit the reference line, go to fill below, and we can say make everything before the amount that the user selects black. And let's keep it at average. Let's keep it, click on OK. So now the user can type in a figure and say that he wants to see all the states, but at the same time he wants to highlight all the states that have a value less than the one that he specifies right here. So he can dynamically change it to 60,000, and the chart is going to reflect over here. So let's do 75, and currently it's showing the average. Let's click on edit reference line, and click on entire table. Let's show the value. Just put it on. Keep it on average. Let's change this to parameter 4 and click on OK. So from here the user can select a value and say that he wants to highlight everything before 90,000 and so on. So we created 3 parameters in the lectures. We created a parameter to dynamically select the top amount of states that have certain sales. We created a parameter that lets you dynamically modify the measures that we have in place. Plus we created a parameter on the reference lines that lets the user decide what he wants to highlight or what he wants to see. So this is how you use parameters. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me through Udemy or through our website. Thank you.